guys, welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is a case that is known to the media. Well, it was dubbed by the police. Not a lot of people actually really like the name. It is the John Doe case known as Fred the Head. And you'll find out why it's known as that in a little bit. I'm just going to refer to him as Fred because that's a bit distasteful personally, but yeah, we will jump right in. It was Friday the 26th of March in 1971 when a man was out shooting. He was called David Nathan in the River Trent, Winds Hill, on the outskirts of Burnhill. And it was there where he made a terrible discovery. He basically found this like slightly uncovered bag of, well, it looked like cement, and there was something inside of it. He could see the top of something, and it was buried, but it was poking out at this point. He was curious, and he decided to go and get a shovel from where he worked, which was close by. He starts digging, and he uncovers the top of a skull. He realized that it was probably a human skull, so he goes back and gets his work colleague, and he comes out and says, like, yes, it's a human skull. Oh, well, it looks like it. So they call the police, and it would be the next day when they would excavate this body. It was like 3'7" deep or something like that, so it was in quite a shallow grave. And the more they dug, they didn't just find a skull, they found the rest of the body. It was the body of a man, and they discovered him in the, like, next to two disused kilns. He was naked except for a pair of socks, and he also had a wedding ring on his ring finger, but on the right hand rather than the left, which is what we commonly have in the UK, is wearing it on the left. Everything else that he had, well, he didn't have anything else on him, basically. No ID, no nothing. And this ring was actually a woman's ring, they would find out. These socks that he was wearing were nylon, and they were like a mustardy colour. A lot of sources say that they were pink, but apparently they were not pink. They were like a browny mustardy colour. I don't really know where that's come from. And the body was in a strange position. It was kind of on his haunches in this whole sort of kneeling down. The feet had been tied together. The hands had been tied together behind the back with this polythyrene binding. Anyway, and so one was tying the arms, one was tying the feet, and then there was another one to tie them both together. But apparently the ones around the arms was quite loose, to the point where he probably could have gotten out. And the twine that was used to bind him, it seems like, is what the farmers used in, you know, hay and straw and things. If you've got horses, I've got horses myself, so it's what they use to put the hay together, and then you cut it to open it all up, and that stuff is really, really strong. And it's, well, we call it baleen twine. So they took him in and they did a post-mortem. Was a male, 5'8" tall, about 20 to late 30s in age. He was below average build. He had really small hands and feet, but he had well kept nails. Now, there was, on his head, there was actually some hair left, and it was short with like reddish brown hair. Also, he also had very bad teeth for his age as well. There was a lot of dental work done, a lot of fillings, and I think everything was done to a very poor job as well, it was said. He had a pretty distinctive underbite. His bottom front teeth overlapped the top front, which meant that his lower sort of bottom jaw protruded outwards. It was actually said as well that the latest dental work was done within 6 months before he died. So he'd only been there, well, less than 6 months, I guess. It would be later found out that he had something called torticollis, which is like this neck deformation, which would have caused his head to actually tilt to the right. That was found out in about 2007, I believe, when they did some more testing on him. They found that he had all his fingerprints, so he wasn't fully decomposed, obviously. He had his fingerprints. There obviously was still some hair, which I've already mentioned. There was no visible injuries either, so no trauma to the head. They couldn't figure out his cause of death because of this, because he could have been, there could have been a numerous ways that he died. It could have been like strangulation. He could have been a victim of an attack that didn't actually nick any bones or anything that you could physically see. Poisoning, I mean, they just don't know. They have no idea. Because of how he was found and how the bindings were, and they were loose around his hand, it was said that it was maybe something to do with like a binding with regards to like a sexual thing, but we don't actually know. Maybe asphyxiation was his cause of death, if that is the case. But there wasn't any bindings around his neck or anything like that. Nothing like that was found. Reconstructions were done of Fred. He has, like, he's over the years, there've been some really good ones, because obviously at this point it's like a 50-year-old case and we still have no idea who he is. They did something to mark, I think it's 52 years or something, and they did remade reconstructions on his 50th anniversary to try and get something. But still, there's just nothing. Nobody ever reported him missing, which is very strange. He has a wedding ring on his hand, on the wrong hand, which maybe means that he's not from the UK, because it's not common for it to be in that spot in the UK. No one ever reported him as a family member missing, a brother, a son, a wife, a husband. Nobody. So it is thought that he was part of. It is thought that he was part of a homicide, that he was murdered, but the police have nothing. They don't even know who he is. He's a John Doe. They just call him Fred. So essentially, it's like, at the moment, it's like the perfect crime. Sorry about that. They was renewing his case for the 50th anniversary and stuffs. And they actually came up with a name that they thought that maybe he was a victim of, which was a serial killer. He was called Anthony Hardy, known as the Camden Ripper. He would have been about 19 years old at the time of Fred's death. So, but a lot of Anthony's victims were female. So, I don't know. But apparently the police have speculated that. And they definitely confirmed that he was definitely male, because some people have said, well, maybe they got the gender wrong and he was actually a female. It would explain the petite hands and the ring and stuff, but the police said no, he's definitely male. They tested his DNA and he's definitely male. Now, somebody did actually come forward with one of the missing family members who did look remarkably like the sketch and the composite that they did. They were thinking that it was him, but they did a DNA test against his brother and the DNA that they had for Fred, and it turns out that it didn't match. So that was not his identity, sadly. So basically, we're still looking for who Fred is. We have no idea who did this to him and who he is. Somebody out there must be missing him, surely, but they never reported him as missing. So who knows? A lot of people do think that's very strange, the fact that nobody reported him as missing. But if he's from a different country or something, I don't know. Maybe, who knows? Anyway, that is the end of this case. I really do hope that we find his ID with obviously genealogy and things like that. Hopefully somebody will put their DNA into the system and we will get a match one day and find out who he is. But it's been a long time so far. So just that's all we can hope for at this point. And then maybe you could get closer to finding out who did it. Who knows? But yeah, that's the end of this case. If you guys have enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for some more content. And I guess I'll see you in the next one. Bye.